that is happening that is actually also, impacting the news ecosystem in a good way. So while we must focus on calling out the bad, we must also shine light on what is going right.
Absolutely.
And there is enough going right.
You come from the time of journalism when the SP Singhs of the world and the Appanmans of the world were actually driving cause-based journalism, where it used to mean something. To the debate show-based stuff that we're seeing now, which has become hugely popular. And does the fight sometimes, I don't know if fight is the right word, but I'm using it because of a lack of any other alternative. Does the fight against that on the internet become a little exhausting from time to time for you?
No, I mean, we do what we do, we enjoy doing what we do. I mean, like, for example, satirizing and calling out legacy media is just one aspect of what,
Yes.
one does. Ground reporting is a big aspect of one does. Having conversations around what are the better ideas, policy, technology, the business models. So it's changing, in ways which is just really exciting. So while I get the frustration and the cynicism because of the kind of news we see, there's a lot that is happening that is actually also, impacting the news ecosystem in a good way. So while we must focus on calling out the bad, we must also shine light on what is going right.
Absolutely.
And there is enough going right.
There's also this whole thing about, as you said, ground reporting. You seem to have got the ear to the ground, judging by the numbers that Newlaundary gets. There's of course one aspect of transmission of knowledge, and then of course there's the reception of knowledge. You've seen, I'm assuming you have seen a wide spectrum of listenership and viewership as well from the time that you started your journalism. Is there a way that you've seen the audiences change in your time when you started to Newlaundry now?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the audience has changed, audience behavior has changed, which audience people go to kind of attract has changed. And that's a really complicated kind of, and it's a very long answer, which I'm sure you won't have the time for. But I think the function of what journalists do doesn't change. Even the audiences may change, the formats may change, how you kind of approach the storytelling may change. But the purpose of journalism doesn't change, which is to have a more informed electorate so that you have a more robust democracy, which is why it's called the fourth pillar of democracy. I mean, otherwise, there's so many professions. Why isn't, chartered accountancy the fourth pillar of democracy? Why is journalism called the fourth pillar of democracy? Because it informs the electorate to select the people who will make democracy function. So that function doesn't change. But what has happened is, there's a book written by Neil Postman, I think is his name, called Amusing Ourselves to Death. In the 70s he wrote it. It is a critique of American television. And he had predicted that television will completely destroy America and just generally. And if you read while he has some very valid points, but he kind of overstated the panic because he compared it to during the days of Abraham Lincoln when people would sit at inns and bars and discuss stuff in length. But how many people would fit there? 200, 400? Like Suraj said, 38 million was the last impression. So television has taken the conversation to a much larger audience.
Sure.
Now most of the conversation is very shallow, but the deep bits are wider than they were 100 years ago. Similarly with the internet and with news, everyone consuming it. Like, when I was always interested in news, by the way. I mean, I may have stumbled into journalism because I was bullied into it, but I was one of the few kids when I was in class 8, 9 who would like to watch news track cassette. I would like to read the paper.
Right.
But now it's very common for school and college kids to want to read the paper and watch news. Now their understanding may be a little shallow, but that is fine. It will become more evolved over time. So I think having a larger audience, even with a shallow understanding or pursuit of information, is always going to be better because the people who want to get into it in deep are also increasing. while overall.
You've seen that.
Yes. I mean, the data proves that there is enough data to support. Now, one can say that bigotry is more, prevalent now, and we see a lot more of it. That's because everybody has an opinion. Earlier, they didn't.
Right.
But the people pushing back has also increased. Earlier, there may be 10, now there may be 100. I mean, even the kind of people who we get at, Media Rumble,
Absolutely.
you interact with them outside. You would think that there's a lot of pushback, but if you were just in your Twitter timeline, you'd think everything is bad. But we meet people, and there's a lot of good stuff happening out there who are changing things in a significant way.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, subscribe to our channel now. We have a new episode out every Friday.